My name is Ava Sautter. I dance with New York City Ballet. It's my fourth year there. So, like I said, I still feel new at times, but very grateful and honored to dance with that company. It's been a dream ever since I was little. So, there's still pinch me moments. But yeah, and right now I'm working through a minor injury, so dealing with my knee and just getting back into dancing right now, and also just prioritizing rest and recovery, but also, balancing my life outside of the studio. I also apologize if it's New York City, so there's like, of course, car horns left and right. But yeah.
I get it. Yeah, awesome. I'm actually in your area. I'm working with
Okay.
SAB now, so every Wednesday I'm not far from you.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Yeah. Ava, where'd you train?
So I grew up in the city, right in the same area. I started at Steps on Broadway, and just danced there for about from like age 4 or 5 to like 12. And then I went to SAB, did only ballet there, obviously. And then was at SAB for 5.5 years and then got into the company.
Awesome. Awesome. So you didn't live at SAB because you lived at home, I assume.
Yes.
Awesome. Ava, can you share a little bit more about your dance journey and just how your relationship with ballet particularly has shifted just over, I would say, the last decade, because you've went from being a pre-professional student to professional in the last decade. So why don't you share a little bit about that journey?
Yeah. Well, one thing that I have to say is my parents always really prioritized school and, extracurricular activities besides dance, and just prioritizing relationships in your life, whether that be friends, family. And I think what really shifted in the last decade was my all or nothing focus on ballet, which as a student is really, it's your whole life. You go home and you talk about it. It's a full-time job, even as a student, to be in the dance world, especially ballet. And coming into the company, it becomes your actual job. So you're paid to do what you love, which is amazing. And I never call it work. That's one thing about me. I always call it ballet or dance. I'll never call it work because it doesn't feel like a job. But of course, I mean, at times it does. But I think what really shifted was making time for other things outside of ballet that bring me joy and fulfill me. And for me, I take college classes part-time, so that's a priority. And if you follow me, I'm a big foodie. I make time to go to restaurants and prioritize friendships outside of the workspace, because I think at the end of the day, ballet is short term, dance is short term. You can't do it forever. And I think people always say, you're so young and you have so many other things that you do. And I think that that's so important. It doesn't matter your age. You need to find outside things that also fill your cup besides your job and besides dance.
Hmm. So important because it's so easy to forget that aspect, right? Just the physical nature and the physical demand of dance really does make it where much of your effort has to be put both in the studio but also even out of the studio with cross training efforts, even just how you're feeling your body. So there's so much focus into this right end goal of being a dancer. But what I think is so incredibly important that often just falls to the waistline is needing to have other experiences. And it's really A, one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on my show, and B,
Oh,
one of the reasons why I host this show is to really
yeah.
just, show all dancers that having interests, hobbies, loves, passions, second jobs out of just your dancing is so incredibly important. Now, with that being said, so similar note, but a little bit different, is how about your relationship with food, and how has that either changed or maybe even helped how your relationship with food has grown? Because as you said, you are such a foodie, you have such a wonderful also ability to share that with your followers as well. How would you say that's impacted your dancing?
Well, this topic, I first love that you do these because I think it's so inspiring. I've watched so many that you've done with colleagues and people that
Mm,
I look up to and love. But one thing that I really want this conversation to, for people to take away from this is that there should never be, it shouldn't be taboo to talk about struggles with eating. And I mean, I had a very, very bad eating disorder when I was when I was a student. And it's not something that if someone asks me about it, I open up, I tell them, because I want to be the guiding light for someone that's going through that, or maybe went through that, or sees a friend that's going through it. And I think the shift of prioritizing and wanting to look a certain way and feeling this control, for me it all stemmed from control. I didn't feel like I could control the outcome of what company I was going to get into, or how the teachers thought I danced in class. So I wanted to control something. And what often a lot of times young girls and young dancers do is try to control what they're eating and what they look like, because we feel like if we can control that, it puts us a step ahead. But from my experience, what I learned is it only drew me back. And I don't regret it, because I think it taught me some of the most valuable lessons. And I feel like I can share my story and talk to other people and help young girls and even help friends navigate these feelings. And so I think that sharing my story, which, I mean, it would be like the longest story ever, I feel like, to go into depth, but I also have an account with my sister and I where we talk and share a lot about navigating recovery and prioritizing balance and life as wellness and, food lovers, but also dancers and professional athletes, because I think that that is the hardest. Your body is your job and your body is your vessel, but at the same time, you can't beat yourself up, and you can't, survive off of nothing. So it's really finding that balance of it all, which I feel like at this point I hate the word balance, because I'm like, what does that even
What does
mean?
it
And it
mean?
looks, yeah, it looks different for everyone, but
Mm-hmm.
finding what that is for you is unique and it's beautiful. And I think that everyone deserves to find that and will find that if they prioritize it.
Well, I think an important point here is that, as exactly what you said, that balance looks different for everybody, but a major factor is, again, being able to expand your experience for dance outside of the studio, which is incredibly important. You are able to navigate through your journey with your struggle in your relationship with food while remaining also in the dance world, which is not easy in of itself, right? Because
Yeah.
it's as you mentioned, most often what we see when dancers have a struggle with food, I experience this myself, is that there's some bit of comfort that's found when we think we are controlling or micromanaging what we're eating, because it feels like we can't micromanage anything else, the success of a turn, the
Yeah.
success of an audition, right? So we strive for some bit of comfort. And what's so important is it's okay to strive for comfort, but it doesn't work when we're trying to restrict our food choices for so many reasons that really go beyond this slide. But I talk about them all the time, of course. The negative repercussions of restricting our food intake, or just being overly obsessive about clean eating, for example. And what's important here is that we can find comfort, but we want to find other coping tools to help us navigate through the discomfort that we might be experiencing in our dance journey. So what's interesting is that I found that you've been able to build a more supportive relationship with food by really harnessing your enjoyment for food, right? And like that's what I also really want to focus on here, because I think a lot of dancers struggle. I remember I struggled with this years ago when we're talking over 15 years ago. My struggle was like, I felt like as a dancer, I wasn't allowed to enjoy my experience with food, right? I felt like I had to maintain. It's like, oh, you're a dancer, you have to maintain this certain way of eating. It couldn't be any further from the truth. Similar to what you said, led me way back in my actual success as a dancer, right? So being able to harness joy while eating by striving for balance or a relationship with food where you're allowing yourself to eat all the foods that bring you satisfaction and joy is so incredibly important. And I think that you've done such a beautiful job of getting there. And I see a lot of our younger dancers still struggling with that.
Hmm. I think too, along what you're saying is like food is enjoyment. I mean, I have so many memories, and I'm sure everyone does, associated with food, associated with a restaurant, or, you know,
Mm.
the order that you always got at your local diner that you associate with family. And I think it's sad, but a lot of society, and especially in the dance world, we are taking those memories away from food and we've demonized them. We've demonized ordering a burger, we've demonized ordering fries. And I think my mission at the end of the day is I want to be a happy and healthy person. I
Mhm.
don't want to be miserable. And also, ballet and dance is not my identity. It's not who I am, you know? And really being able to understand and look in my life and say, I love dancing, I love my job, but I also am happy and I feel fulfilled outside of those studio walls because I've been able to mend my relationship with food, which at the end of the day, when I had a really bad eating disorder, I drove myself so far away from family, so far away from friends. And people might have looked at me and been like, wow, she's so thin, but I was so miserable.
Mm.
And I think that knowing that food is really something that should bring us together and bring us joy is all that I want people and young dancers to know. But of course, we have to eat the veggies and the protein. I That's something I also really prioritize. But again, going back to that word balance, it's so important to figure out what works for you and incorporate a healthy lifestyle. But a healthy isn't a look, it's a feeling. And
Mm.
so I think that that is really something I wish my younger self knew. And I just am so, looking back now, I know that younger me would be so proud of where I am now, that it just makes me really honored when, you know, young dancers will stop me on the street, actually, my sister and I, and say, you saved my life.
Mm.
And it'll bring me to tears because I'm like, I wish I had that. And so I hope that I can be that light for young dancers and even just for anyone to see that it's possible to enjoy your life, eat amazing food, but be healthy.
Yeah, that's actually such a big misconception that I see on social media,
Mhm.
which is the work that I do, just really bridging the gap between performance nutrition and then an approach called intuitive eating, where we're really learning how to choose foods not only because of the functional aspect of them, but because also they're going to bring us joy and satisfaction. But the big misconception on social media is that it ends up being it, or it looks or seems to those who are unfamiliar with it like a very carefree approach, when that is actually not the case at all. Because as you mentioned, at the end of the day, dancers are still athletes. We're moving our bodies at a level of an athlete. There has to be intent. There has to
Mhm.
be what I call a very proactive approach in ensuring that we're also just meeting our needs, that we're getting enough in during the day. So I think that's incredibly important, because I'll also hear from a lot of young dancers who will say, oh, I want to stop thinking about food so much. I want to stop obsessing. And I think it's really important about finding this middle ground, because it's where these two concepts kind of interplay and come together, between being able to enjoy all foods and also understanding that you have higher needs than the average person, that you do need to be have more of an effort in making sure you're getting in complex carbohydrates for sustainable energy, balancing that out with protein in your meal, with unsaturated fats to help alleviate inflammation, like all that good nutrition 101 type of stuff. And just being able to really bring it all together is so important. On a more lighter note, do you have any fun pre-performance rituals that you want to share?
I mean, for all the dancers and people that know me in life, I'm such a goofball and I'll make myself laugh even if no one's in the mood to laugh. But I'd say just keeping a light, you know, the good vibes is like my
Mm.
motto. So, I mean, I will crack jokes like before the show and just be play music. I'd say that's probably my pre-performance. I usually do like some sort of abs. I don't always do like a full ballet warm up just because we've been dancing throughout the day, so I don't want to overexhaust my body, but just like reactivate the muscles. But honestly, I would say definitely just laughing. Is Laughter is the best warm up.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. Also, on a lighter note, what is your favorite restaurant right now in
Uh,
New York City? Because I saw you were just at L'Artusi, which is delicious.
yes, I was gonna say either that or Fairfax. It has like the best burger. It's not like a traditional burger. It's like a smashed bun, and they have crispy onions on it,
Mm.
and this like mayo. Oh, it's. I mean, I am. You could put a burger in front of me, and I'd be happy, honestly, wherever it was. But I would say Fairfax has probably the best burger in the city.
Oh, interesting. My husband and I just went to Bad Roman. Have you eaten there yet?
I, I have. I do think it's a little overhyped, but I think that
I
they're
can see
if you
that.
navigate the desserts are very good on the menu. But
Mhm.
I do. I mean, I think you're going for the vibe of the
Oh,
restaurant.
yeah, absolutely. It was actually also a little depressing because I'm relatively young. I'm 35, and I was the oldest person in that restaurant.
I feel like my
That was,
parents my parents say this all the time. We'll take them to dinner like in the West Village and they're like, "We're too old to be here." I'm like, "You're not old at all."
yeah, exactly. That's awesome, Ava. We're gonna have to grab a meal
I
at one point.
would love to. We should.
Ava, I want to just kind of finish up our conversation. You've shared such beautiful insight, and my final question that I ask is really one that's it's a pretty loaded question, and there's no doubt that you've generally already answered it within our conversation. But I like to see where this goes. Is how would you define what it means to be the healthy dancer?
Um, well, I think honestly what I said before, but healthy is not a look
Mm,
and it's not something that you can quantify. You can't say, "Oh, well, if I have this amount of calories, I'm healthy," or if I eat this amount of food, I'm healthy, or if I don't eat this, I'm healthy. It's a feeling and it's not just a physical feeling, it's an emotional feeling. And
mhm.
I think to be healthy, at the end of the day, no one's perfect. You're gonna have maybe you're gonna be too full at times. Maybe you're gonna realize, oh, I should have eaten a little bit more before that show. I didn't have as much energy as I know I can. And I think being healthy is being able to have those conversations with yourself and be honest and be, you know, I mean, I will stop rambling because I feel like I could just talk about this forever, but your healthy today is going to look different tomorrow. It's going to look different in a year. It's going to look different, than the person next to you. So really just being able to navigate those conversations with yourself and be open to change. Change is scary, but be open to change things in your life to be your healthiest and happiest self.
Mhm. Yeah, this is why my program that I work on with dancers is called Redefining the Healthy Dancer. And there's such a point to that because exactly as you said, not only are we redefining our personal healthy from the dancer next to us because they could look very different, but also redefining our healthy now versus what might be healthy for us 5 years from now or 5 years ago. It literally is a constant journey. It's always shifting. And I completely agree. Having the ability to reflect with yourself, I often say that all of our experiences, whether it's an experience where you feel like you ate past comfort and you feel uncomfortable, or just as you said, it's an experience where you're about to get on stage and you think you might not have actually fueled your body enough. All of these are very normal experiences to have, and the point is that we're learning from them. They're opportunities, right? They're helping us to build evidence of what we can utilize and maybe shift the next time. And I think that is so incredibly healthy to look at it like that as all being an experience and being able to reflect and learn from them. So, Ava, thank you so much. You are such a breath of fresh air. You are wonderful, such a light for all dancers, and I'm so happy that you were able to connect with me today.
I'm so happy to have done this. Thank you so much for having me, Rachel.
You're welcome. I'll talk to you soon.
Yes, bye bye.
Bye.